attacks against terror organizations receiving sanctuary there. To speak more on this, I'm joined now by former Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, National Security Analyst Nitin Gokhale, and Michael Kugelman, who's Deputy Director of the Asia Program and Senior Associate for South Asia at Woodrow Wilson. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for speaking with us today. Mr. Gokhale, what do you make of the situation as it stands? So many developments in the last few hours, the latest, of course, being that Pakistan is sending Abhinandan back as a peace gesture. How do you think India will or should respond?
Well, India will certainly welcome his release, but I must sort of put a bit of a caveat here that irrespective of his release tomorrow or later, maybe 3 months later, Pakistan would have had to release him. Because there was no way that they could have detained him indefinitely. Under the Geneva Conventions, there are provisions where they have to treat him well and then eventually release him. So that notwithstanding, India will welcome this. But this does not mean that India has lost sight of its objective or end goal in this particular event or the action that India has initiated, which is to try and get the Jaish-e-Mohammed reined in, Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist either detained, arrested, and verifiable and demonstrable action taken against people like Masood Azhar, where their finances can be frozen, are frozen, and also they are not allowed the freedom to move around or train terrorists on the soil of Pakistan. That, I think, still remains, and I think India is not going to ease pressure just because Wing Commander Abhinandan is being released as a peace gesture.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Gokhale, but what you described have been long-standing demands from India, and that is a back and forth which has been going on for long. I'm talking in the context of the precipitation we've seen in the last, say, 72 hours. Yesterday we were at a point where it all became about this captured Indian Air Force pilot, and rightly so. Now that that is off the table, do you think the momentum is on India's side or Pakistan's side? Because they have managed to show the world that they're taking the moral high ground.
So what moral high ground is there? I mean, that's what I'm saying, that when India launched the attack, went as far as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, to draw the red lines that were there in the minds of India's strategic decision makers, and given a new paradigm to a military action that India can take, I think it's not something that Pakistan will not be aware of, that India's launched this action to try and get JEM under control and or banned or slash get their finances frozen. And that on that front, nothing has happened. In fact, if you see India's statement yesterday, that the dogfight that took place over Rajouri near the line of control is being seen by India as an act of aggression. And India said it reserves the right to hit back at Pakistan. Okay, no other action has been taken by Pakistan, but tomorrow, if there is something similar happens, then India will continue to take that action, is what I am hearing. India has decided that it is not going to ease the pressure. Despite the fact that Abhinandan is coming back, it is easy to read it that way. But please go behind the headlines and look at what India's aims have been, what has been the objective in launching that attack, going where nobody had gone for so long. And therefore,
I think that's an important point, that the stated purpose was to destroy, terror camps and sites. Whether we've done that or not effectively is something that we have to see, and how long-standing the effects are of the actions we took day before yesterday. I want to come to former Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar on the point I was making earlier, and welcome to the show, sir. So we heard from, Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan yesterday. Today, at a joint parliamentary sitting in Pakistan, at the end of his speech, he said, hey, 1 minute, I need to say something else. And then he talks about how they will release Wing Commander Abhinandan as a peace gesture. The ball is in our court now. Where do we go from here?
No, I don't think the ball is in our court because the basic reason for which India had gone into Pakistan, that is to destroy the JEM hideout in Balakot and to inflict damage to the safe havens of terrorists in Pakistan. That still is there, and we need Pakistan to take action on terrorist groups that are based there and that are operating against India from its territory. So that continues to be there. But, in addition to that, another point that I would like to emphasize, another point that I would like to underline here is that this has been a very effective move by India because, over all these years, right since 1998-99, when both India and Pakistan became overtly nuclear weapon states, so to say, with nuclear weapons. So Pakistan has always been saying that if there is a response or launch of an attack from India, then they will use nuclear weapons because they have not been manufactured by them to put them in museums. They will be used against India. But this, whether it was the surgical strike 1 in 2016 September, or it is the attack on 26th February, it has proven beyond doubt that India can take action against Pakistan, and Pakistan does not have the capacity or capability to launch. So at least, that bogey of use of nuclear weapons, that, suddenly the threshold going above use of nuclear weapons, I think that bogey has been completely destroyed.
Yeah.
But of course, the issue of terrorist safe havens in Pakistan, that continues to be as relevant and valid today. And I think Pakistan is taking this action to release Wing Commander Abhinandan because of the international pressure that it is facing. Now, of course, any country, it can sort of try to make a virtue out of a necessity. It had no option but to release the Wing Commander, and the earlier that it takes, the better it would be for itself. So it's making a virtue out of a necessity.
Yeah, I have been seeing that narrative, and I would like to understand that a little more. So I will come back to you for that. That I've been seeing that narrative that Pakistan had to buckle under under pressure. What exactly was that pressure? What is that necessity? What is that global intervention? Let me get Michael Kugelman into it because we heard from Donald Trump earlier in the day hinting that something good is going to come out of it. Was it the Americans? Have they stepped in? That's something that India has always said that we're not interested in. We don't like mediation in this matter. What do you think has gone down?
Well, I certainly would not be surprised if U.S. officials got involved and in an effort to mediate. I mean, as you said before, President Trump sort of suggested that there may be some level of U.S. involvement, and the fact that we now have this announcement by Pakistan that it plans to release this Indian pilot on Friday, that to me suggests it could be part of a broader deal. I'm not sure if the Pakistanis would unilaterally decide to release what for them they may have seen as a bargaining chip. I imagine that it was part of a broader arrangement, a broader deal, and I would not be surprised if the United States was involved behind the scenes in brokering that deal. I mean, I imagine more details will come out, but I think we should be clear that this is it's a really big move by Prime Minister Khan. I mean, he essentially, or Pakistan has now put out the path or created a path for de-escalation, and I don't really see how India could respond in any other way than agreeing to de-escalate. So I think that the crisis will be unwinding, but I think it's important to highlight what your other guests have mentioned, that at the end of the day, has anything really changed on the ground? Now, whether we've had this very tense crisis over the last few days, has anything changed? I mean, the realities are the same, that the terrorist organizations are still there in Pakistan, and yes, India did go ahead and and target some Jaish-e-Mohammed facilities. But these terrorist groups are still there, and clearly Pakistan is not about to change its behavior toward them. It's not about to sever its ties to them, short of cosmetic changes, such as, perhaps putting a leader under house arrest or banning one of these groups' charitable facilities or something like that. I don't think we're going to see anything changing. So that's unfortunately the bottom line. At the end of the day, has anything really changed? Not necessarily. Yes, I realize that India, one could argue, has put Pakistan on notice, that India will be happy to preemptively act to take out terrorist threats as it sees them, and it won't worry about coming into Pakistani airspace. But still, at the end of the day, will that change Pakistan's broader policy toward these terrorist organizations? Unfortunately, I don't think so. So that's a bit of a sobering reality that we'll all have to grapple with.
Mr. Gokhale, you want to come in on that point? Two parts of it. What effectively changes after what we've seen in the last few days? And the second point, that if the return of Wing Commander Abhinandan is due to some kind of international pressure, then what's the other end of that deal?
Well, I don't know what the deal is because I'm not privy to that. But on the first point, I want to say this. Aren't we jumping the gun in less than 2 hours after Prime Minister Khan has announced Abhinandan's proposed release on Friday? Let us wait and watch, because the conversations that I've been having in India's national security establishment over the last 2 days tells me, and I may be completely wrong, proved completely wrong over the next week or so, tells me that, and yet it tells me that India is not about to ease that pressure. India is not about to de-escalate in the manner that has happened earlier. There is a feeling and there is a stand within the government here that we have tried this path earlier, this road, we have gone down this road earlier. So we are not going to repeat the same mistake of treating this gesture of releasing the pilot as one step towards de-escalation, because the end goal for which the strike was launched, effective or not, the very fact that India broke its convention. Remember, even in Kargil, when at the height of the conflict, Prime Minister Vajpayee had forbade the Indian Air Force from crossing the line of control, or even the Indian Army. But this has been done. And so India has now said that it reserves the right, if something of this kind happens again, to go in again and hit terrorist camps, again, effective or not, but a sustained pressure. Bottom line is, India wants to put a sustained pressure on Pakistan to take action, verifiable, demonstrable action. Okay. Whether that can get translated in this, we don't know, but we'll wait and watch.
No, and absolutely, these are long-standing missions. There is unlikely to be any overnight, end story to this. The demands are long-standing as well. I do understand that. The other end of it is, the diplomatic portion of it and what happens there. Mr. Gokhale, you talk about a fairly strict posture that India is adopting. Even now, we're not done with the story, even though Abhinandan is coming back. But in the perception game, do you think that the fact that Pakistan has managed to come out and say that we are doing this as a peace gesture, there is no official word from India yet, that sort of puts them in an advantage as far as the rest of the world is concerned?
Well, let us see, because so far, until this announcement, and we still don't know whether the rest of the world is going to just take this at face value as a peace gesture. So far, in this crisis, Pakistan hasn't had a support even from all-weather friends like China. The overt support that they've been getting so far in all their other crises. States has been very clear that what Pakistan needs to do to defuse this situation in 2 statements. Russia and given a combined statement with India that terrorism as a state policy is not acceptable, without naming Pakistan, of course. And many others have come up. France has come up with a resolution again. I'm not saying that it's going to change overnight, but I see a different approach in this government and in this particular crisis. Earlier, they may have followed the same steps as the earlier governments, over the years for the last 20, 25 years. But in this one, they have decided now to take a different approach.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm suggesting that we wait to come to a conclusion.
No, I think the wait and watch suggestion is absolutely perfect, because these are complex matters and nothing is clear. Whether we made as big gains as we claim, or was there a setback, will not be known in a day or two. I have Ashok Sajjanhar back on the phone line, and I just want to ask you one question about how this plays out diplomatically. India so far has said that we will not talk to you until the terror stops. Now, on the face of it, Wing Commander Abhinandan will come back without any conditions being placed. Where does India go from here? Is there any room for the diplomatic route at all?
You see, let me put it this way. Let's go a little backward. On the 14th, the attack in Pulwama took place. On 26th, we struck back. And so I think this was a response to Pulwama. If nothing had happened after that, if there was not escalation by Pakistan, there would not have been this dogfight, there would not have been this aircraft crash and arrest of Wing Commander Abhinandan. So the situation would have stayed there, and I don't think India would have escalated. India would have mounted or launched another attack in Pakistan. And so what we are seeing, as I can see it is, what we are seeing is a restoration of the status quo ante of 26th of February.
Okay.
That is, India has taken this action, has attacked, sent out a strong, muscular, robust message to Pakistan, and the situation rests there.
Yeah.
And what has, I think, additionally happened is that Pakistan has found that it is increasingly devoid of friends in the international community, because no one has really come out in support of Pakistan. Of course, we will need to see what the envoy of the Saudi Crown Prince came and spoke to the Pakistan foreign minister, etc., etc. But there has been no overt statement of either support for Pakistan or condemnation of the action by India.
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, Pakistan would find itself that its diplomatic options are very severely constrained and limited. So I think we'll have to see then how do we take it from there. Like what the Americans have said, like what other Europe, Australia, they have said that you should stop supporting terror.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Michael, it's about narrative, isn't it? If you look at it from the broader picture, every country needs to walk away saying the right things to its people to let this issue diffuse right here and now.
Well, yes, you're right. And I think that both Pakistan and India can claim victory right now. India could say that it demonstrated its resolve and its desire and capacity to take out terrorist threats next door. And it's not afraid of, for instance, the Pakistani nuclear threat. And meanwhile, Pakistan has been able to say, well, it has its own capacity to retaliate to Indian aggression. And, now it's put itself out there as a peacemaker by saying it's going to release the Indian pilot. So if both sides can claim victory, then I don't see a reason for there to be further escalation. But, I do agree with your other guest that clearly the pressure will not relent on Pakistan, even if the immediate crisis is going to diminish, even if we're not necessarily going to see any more limited uses of force in the immediate term. Clearly the efforts will continue to pressure Pakistan, to isolate Pakistan on the world stage, though I have long said that latter goal is not really possible given Pakistan's friendships with countries like China and Saudi Arabia. But that will continue. But, absolutely, the narratives are key, particularly when you talk about political considerations, domestic political considerations. India with its coming election, and Pakistan has its own political dynamics that make it important for both cases, both Pakistan and India, to not appear that they're caving in to the demands or the inclinations of the other side.
Thank you so much, Michael, of course, Mr. Ashok Sajjanhar and Mr. Gokhale for joining us on this discussion today.